Hi everyone, Zach here, and welcome to the last prep video for Section 3 in this series on developing a survival game. In this prep video, we'll be talking about pass by value versus pass by reference. It's come up a couple of times, and we should probably have a bit of a stronger understanding of this topic. This series and this video have been brought to you by Patreon sponsors, and if you've not already, consider hitting those like and subscribe buttons down below. It really does help this channel out. And if you want to take your support a bit further, consider becoming a Patreon supporter. Patreon supporters can get early access to the videos and access to the files used in the recordings. Alright, that said, let's talk about what's going to happen in today's tutorial. So in today's tutorial, we'll create the ability to unequip items from our equipment and swap equipped items. In addition to this, we will also set it up so that if there isn't room in the inventory when we unequip an item, we drop it back into the world. All right, so that said, let's move on to what we're going to cover in today's prep: value versus reference. So you can pass information in two ways, clearly: by its value or by reference. So I think the simplest way to understand this is the coffee mug GIF that I've always seen online. So let's take a look at that. So in this GIF, we have a pass by reference and a pass by value. Let's start with pass by value here on the right. We have a cup. We have a picture of a mug. And then we pass that empty mug into this function called fill cup. And as this cup fills, nothing happens to the original cup. This is a good visual demonstration of pass by value. So we're just passing the value of cup, which is mug, into fill cup. Fill cup then fills the cup, but nothing happens to that original variable. On the left, we have pass by reference. We have the same variable called cup, which is represented by an empty mug. We pass the reference of that variable into the function fill cup, and notice that as one fills, the other fills. So that is a good visual representation of the difference. That said, let's take a closer look at this. So let's start with value. So value, or pass by value, or call by value, is the most common form of evaluation that we use. I will talk more about this at the end of today's prep video. In pass by value, the variable's value is copied, and it's that copied value that is used. So what you need to know about this really is that when the value is changed, it's only changed in the local scope. The second that value leaves memory, it's gone. So another way to think about this for an example is, let's say we have a character health variable with a value of 50. We pass character health by value into function x. In function x, we add 25 to the value that we've passed through. So we add 25 to 50, getting a total of 75. We leave function x. We ask the game to print the character health. The value 50 is printed. Now you might be confused by something here, and we'll talk about that in a minute after we've talked about references. So first, references. References, or pass by reference or call by reference, work a bit differently. The actual variable is evaluated. So the way this works is the address in memory is passed. That way, when you modify that variable, the value of that variable, the original variable is modified as well. So in the visual example of the two coffee cups and pass by value, it's a copy of the cup. And pass by reference, it's a reference to the address in memory that's passed. So that when we edit whatever's at that address, it's edited overall. It's not a copy being changed, it's the original thing itself being changed. So for example, if we have a function y where we pass by reference the character health, say 50, into that function, then change the value to 75 and leave function y, and then print the value of character health, it will print 75. Now, I've already said that I'll discuss this a bit more, and let's get to that. So Those examples, they have a bit of a problem, don't they? Wait, what about those examples might be problematic? Oh, health. Yeah, don't we do something similar to that already? But we never set our arguments for our change character health to be passed by reference. So when we change the character health, how does it change overall? Well, that's kind of where semantics really matter. The wording in the examples are not examples of what we do in this series. What we do in this series is we pass in a value, so it is passed by value, of delta health. We only want delta, remember change, health to be its value while we're using it. So we only care about it in a local scope. So we pass in a value of, say, 25. We then set the value of the character health to delta health plus or minus character health. And it's that wording there. We set the value. So in that function, we take a variable and set the value of the variable. Yeah, in theory, you could use pass by reference to change character health. And then it might be a challenge for you to work out how to do that. Make sure to click the pass by reference button as your first step. But this is just an example. Now, to make things a little bit more confusing, I want to bring up something kind of sort of unrelated. At least at first, it really is related. So at the values part of this, I mentioned there's something I was going to bring up at the end. Well, let's look at that. And sometimes when we're passing something by value, it's not always a value we're passing. We're actually passing by reference. How do we know this? Well, in UE4, sometimes a value is really a reference, thanks to abstraction. Now, if you know the C++ side of UE4, then you know exactly where I'm going. I'll even put the code at the very end. So in C++, a function can only have one return value, or none if it's a void. It cannot have more than one return value. Never. I am pausing intentionally for you to argue with me about this really quickly. You might say, check if equipment slot is empty has 3 return values. And some of the functions we've created in this series have more than 3. First, if you understand that UE4 somehow allows you to have more than one return value, and you're happy with that knowledge and that's all you want to know, fair enough. Move on, go on to the actual video, stop here. If that's how you understand it and that's at the depth that you want to understand it at, that's okay. That's perfectly fine. Now, if you're more interested in the underpinnings of how UE4 works and how the C++ is being implemented, well, then continue. So in reality, those aren't returns. Those are actually arguments. So in UE4's API for C++, arguments that are passed by reference are treated as returns. Now, that statement isn't always true. You can actually change it so it is a pass by reference instead of a return. And this is because anything that you are returning will technically be a reference in this case. So if you want to set, say, character health and then return character health and is dead, well, you're probably setting both as actual values. You're setting the actual variable there. So when you return it, all it's doing is saying this is really a reference. Set this as the actual value. But in both Blueprint and C++, you can actually do both of these. You can pass an argument as a reference, so it comes out as a return, or you can pass an argument as a true reference. So in traditional C++, when you are passing an argument as a reference, what you're doing is you're putting the ampersand, the and symbol, in front of the value. The way that UE4 treats this is it turns it into a return or an output pin. If you want to get the C++ effect of using the ampersand in Unreal, when you're doing C++ in Unreal, it's uparam bracket ref bracket and then the ampersand and the value and the variable name. So this is what the difference is really. If we're passing in a reference, it can be treated like a return. If we're passing in, we want to actually treat it as a true reference, and we have to tell it that, hey, this is the Unreal parameter of reference. All right. All of that said, that takes us through what we need to discuss today. This video and this series have been brought to you by Patreon sponsors like Rian, Hana, Squad Menson, and 1Volt10. I look forward to seeing you in the tutorial proper. and hope that you have a wonderful day.